Adrian's car died in the middle of the storm. Rain poured down like anger from the sky. He ran toward a bus shelter, his shirt soaking through. That's when he saw her. A girl stood under the rain at the bus stop, barefoot, laughing like the storm was music. Her name tag read Grace. Their eyes met for just one heartbeat. Something silent passed between them. Then the bus arrived with a loud hiss. She stepped inside and disappeared into the night. Adrian stood frozen, watching the red lights fade away. When he finally moved to sit down, he noticed something on the wet bench. A small notebook. He picked it up and opened the first page. His breath stopped. His own name was written inside. Adrian stared at the notebook in disbelief. How did she know his name? He flipped through the pages slowly. Inside were sketches of city buildings, coffee cups, and lonely park benches. Poems filled the margins, all signed with a single letter, G. His hands trembled as he reached the last page. The words were written in soft blue ink, to the man I've not yet met, but already dream of. Adrian's heart pounded. This felt impossible. He turned the notebook over and saw something faint on the back cover. A phone number, smudged badly by the rain. Only a few digits were clear. He squinted under the streetlight, trying to read the rest. Could he call her? Would she answer? His finger hovered over his phone screen. Adrian typed the number carefully, fixing the smudged parts as best he could. His thumb shook as he pressed call. The phone rang once. Twice. Then it stopped. No voicemail. Just silence. A few seconds later, his phone buzzed. A text message appeared. Who gave you this number? Adrian typed quickly. I found your notebook. You left it at the bus stop. He watched the screen. 3 dots appeared, showing she was typing. Then they disappeared. He waited. 1 minute. 5 minutes. Nothing. He typed again, please. I just want to return it. Still no reply. Adrian sat on his bed that night, staring at the notebook. He traced the sketches with his finger, wondering who this girl really was. And why she had written his name. Weeks passed. Adrian carried the notebook everywhere, hoping to see her again. One Saturday morning, he walked into a small cafe downtown. The smell of coffee and vanilla filled the air. He ordered his usual drink and turned toward the tables. Then he froze. Grace sat by the window, reading a book. Her hair was tied back. She wore a simple white shirt. Sunlight touched her face. Adrian's heart hammered in his chest. He didn't move. She looked up slowly, as if she felt someone watching. Their eyes met. A soft smile crossed her lips. She closed her book and tilted her head slightly. Then she spoke, her voice quiet and steady. You found my notebook. Adrian could barely breathe. He nodded and walked toward her, one slow step at a time. They sat across from each other for hours. Grace talked about her love for drawing and old music. Adrian shared stories about his design work and dreams he'd never told anyone. Time disappeared. Laughter came easy. Silence felt comfortable. When the cafe began to close, Grace stood up and reached for a napkin. She pulled out a pen and wrote something quickly. She slid it across the table with a small smile. Let's not rush this, she said softly. Let's meet again. Same place, next Sunday. Adrian nodded, his heart full. He watched her leave, her red scarf trailing behind her. That week crawled by. Sunday finally came. Adrian arrived early, wearing his best shirt. He ordered 2 coffees and sat by the window. Hours passed. Grace never came. The sun set. The cafe emptied. Adrian sat alone, staring at the untouched cup. Adrian waited until the cafe closed. He called her number. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Still off. Panic crept into his chest. He walked up to the cafe owner, a kind older woman wiping tables. "Excuse me," Adrian said. "Did you see the girl I was with last week? She was supposed to meet me today." The woman paused and looked at him with concern. "Oh yes, I remember her. She came by this morning, very early. But she left in a rush. She looked upset, like she'd just gotten bad news." Adrian's stomach dropped. "Did she say anything?" The woman shook her head. "No, sweetheart. I'm sorry." Adrian walked back to his car slowly, his mind spinning. Then he stopped. Hanging from his car mirror was a red scarf. The same one Grace wore. Adrian couldn't sleep. He searched for Grace online. No Facebook. No Instagram. Nothing. It was like she didn't exist. He went back to the cafe every day that week, hoping she'd return. She never did. He visited nearby hospitals, asking if anyone named Grace had been admitted. No records. He even went to the police station. They said there was nothing they could do. No crime had been committed. Adrian felt lost. One night, he sat staring at her notebook under his desk lamp. His phone buzzed. A new email from an unknown sender. No subject line. He opened it slowly. The message was short and cold: "Stop looking for her." Adrian's blood ran cold. His hands gripped the phone tightly. Who sent this? And why? He typed a reply: "Who are you?" Adrian hit send and waited. No response. Hours passed. Then, late that night, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered quickly. "Hello." A man's voice came through, deep and sharp. "Grace doesn't need you. She's getting married. Forget her." Adrian's heart stopped. What? Who is this? The line went dead. Adrian sat frozen, staring at his phone. Married. It didn't make sense. Before he could think, another message came in. This time from Grace's number. "Please, don't believe anything he says." Adrian's hands shook as he typed back. "Grace, where are you? What's going on?" 3 dots appeared. Then, "Meet me tomorrow. Sunrise Park. Come alone." Adrian barely slept. The next morning, he drove to the park before the sun fully rose. Grace sat on a bench near the trees, her face pale and tired. She looked up when she heard his footsteps. Grace stood slowly. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying for days. Adrian stepped closer. "Grace, what's happening?" She took a deep breath. "I'm engaged," she whispered. "To a man named Ethan. He's a real estate mogul. He saved my family from bankruptcy after my father died." Adrian felt his chest tighten. "But you don't love him." She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No. I never did. But I owe him everything. My mother's hospital bills. My brother's school fees. He paid for it all." Adrian reached for her hand. "You don't owe him your life." Before she could respond, a car pulled up fast behind them. A tall man in a black suit stepped out. His eyes were cold and sharp. It was Ethan. He looked at Adrian, then at Grace. "What is this?" he said quietly, his voice like ice. Ethan walked toward them slowly, his hands in his pockets. "Grace," he said calmly, "get in the car." Grace didn't move. Adrian stepped forward. "She's not going anywhere." Ethan's jaw tightened. He turned to Adrian with a smile that wasn't kind. "You don't know who you're dealing with, boy. Stay away from her. This is your only warning." Grace finally spoke, her voice shaking. "Ethan, please. Don't do this." He ignored her and opened the car door. "Now, Grace." She looked at Adrian one last time, tears streaming down her face. Then she walked to the car. Adrian wanted to stop her, but his body wouldn't move. As the car pulled away, something small and silver flew out of the window and landed on the grass. Adrian ran over and picked it up. It was Grace's engagement ring. Days passed like shadows. Adrian tried calling Grace again and again. No answer. He couldn't eat. Couldn't focus at work. One afternoon, a brown envelope was left on his desk at the office. No return address. No name. Adrian opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Grace sitting alone in a dark room. Her face was turned slightly away, but Adrian could see a bruise on her cheek. His hands shook. Beneath the photo was a handwritten note in her handwriting, "Help me." Adrian's heart pounded. He flipped the photo over. In the background, barely visible, was a black car. The same one Ethan drove. Adrian grabbed his jacket and ran out of the office. He had to find her. He had to get her out. But where was she? He didn't even know where to start. Adrian drove around the city for hours, searching. Finally, he remembered something Grace once mentioned. Ethan owned a private hotel near the edge of town. Adrian found the address online and drove there fast. The building was tall and quiet, surrounded by trees. He parked far away and walked in carefully. At the front desk, he pretended to be a guest. "I'm looking for Grace. She's staying here with Ethan." The receptionist looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't give out guest information." Adrian leaned closer. "Please. She's in danger." The woman hesitated, then whispered, "Room 407. 4th floor." Adrian ran to the elevator. When he reached the room, the door was slightly open. He pushed it gently. Grace sat on the bed, staring out the window. "Grace," he whispered. She turned quickly. "Adrian." "How did you?" Suddenly, the door slammed open. Ethan stood there, fury in his eyes. Ethan didn't say a word. He lunged at Adrian with a closed fist. Adrian stumbled back, crashing into the wall. Pain shot through his ribs. Ethan grabbed him by the collar and threw him to the floor. "I warned you," Ethan shouted. Grace screamed, "Stop. Please, Ethan, stop." But Ethan didn't listen. He kicked Adrian hard in the side. Adrian tried to fight back, but Ethan was stronger. Everything went blurry. The last thing Adrian heard was Grace crying his name. When he woke up, he was in a hospital bed. White walls. Beeping machines. A nurse stood by his side. "You're awake," she said gently. "You've been out for 2 days." Adrian's throat was dry. "Grace, where is she?" The nurse handed him a folded piece of paper. "A woman left this for you." Adrian opened it with shaking hands. It read, "Don't look for me. This is bigger than us." Adrian lay in that hospital bed, staring at the note over and over. His body ached, but his heart hurt more. A few days later, the nurse helped him sit up to watch the news. The television showed a grand wedding venue decorated with white roses and gold lights. The news anchor smiled brightly. Billionaire Ethan Cross is set to marry his fiancée Grace Hill this evening in what's being called the wedding of the year. Adrian's chest tightened. He tried to stand, but his legs were too weak. Then the report continued. However, in a shocking turn of events, the ceremony was delayed after the bride reportedly collapsed moments before the vows. Adrian's eyes widened. The screen showed paramedics rushing into the venue. That night, Adrian snuck out of the hospital. He drove to the venue's hospital wing. But when he found her room, it was empty. The window was wide open. Curtains blowing in the wind. Adrian searched everywhere. No sign of Grace. He went back to his apartment, exhausted and broken. 2 days later, a small package was left at his door. No label. He opened it carefully. Inside was a flash drive. Adrian plugged it into his laptop. A video file appeared. He clicked play. Grace's face filled the screen. She looked tired but calm. Her voice was soft. Adrian, if you're watching this, it means I chose freedom. I couldn't marry him. I couldn't live a lie. Tears filled Adrian's eyes. She continued, don't come after me. I need to disappear for a while. To heal. To find myself again. The video ended. Adrian sat back, his heart heavy. But then he noticed something. In the background of the video, barely visible behind Grace's shoulder, was a sign. It was blurry, but Adrian squinted. It read, Central Train Station, Platform 9. Adrian didn't think twice. He grabbed his keys and drove straight to the train station. The place was crowded with travelers. He pushed through the crowd, scanning every face. His heart pounded. Then he saw her. Grace sat alone on a bench near Platform 9, wearing a dark hoodie. A small bag rested beside her. Adrian walked toward her slowly. She looked up. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Grace smiled faintly. You never give up, do you? She whispered. Adrian knelt in front of her. I can't, he said. Not when it's you. Tears filled her eyes. She reached out and touched his face gently. I'm so sorry for everything. Before Adrian could respond, a loud sound echoed through the station. A gunshot. People screamed. Chaos erupted. Adrian's instinct was immediate. He pulled Grace close and shielded her with his body. The bullet grazed Adrian's shoulder. Pain shot through him like fire. He stumbled but didn't let go of Grace. Adrian, she screamed. Police rushed in from every direction. Officers tackled someone to the ground near the platform entrance. It was Ethan. He was holding a gun. His face was twisted with rage. If I can't have her, no one will, he shouted. The officers dragged him away. Grace held Adrian tightly, her hands pressing against his wound. Don't you dare leave me, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Stay with me. Please. Adrian's vision blurred. The sounds around him faded. The last thing he saw was Grace's face, scared and beautiful, leaning over him. Then everything went black. Sirens wailed in the distance. Paramedics rushed in. Grace rode with him in the ambulance, holding his hand the entire way, refusing to let go. Weeks passed. Adrian woke up in a different hospital room. His shoulder was bandaged. His body felt weak. A doctor told him he was lucky. The bullet had missed anything vital. But when Adrian asked for Grace, the nurses looked away. She was gone. Again. On the table beside his bed was a single white envelope. Adrian opened it slowly. Inside was a letter in Grace's handwriting. Adrian, you saved my life. But I need to save my own now. I'm starting over in a new city, far from here. I need to learn who I am without fear. If love is real, it will find its way back to us. The letter was postmarked from another city, but no return address. Adrian folded it carefully and held it against his chest. He didn't cry. He just stared out the window and whispered, I'll wait. 2 years passed. Adrian rebuilt his life piece by piece. He moved to a new city and opened a small design studio. His work became known for its emotion and detail. Clients loved him. But at night, he still thought of Grace. He kept her notebook on his desk, right next to his sketches. Sometimes he'd open it and trace her drawings with his fingers. One quiet Tuesday afternoon, the studio door opened. A woman walked in, dressed in a navy blazer and carrying a leather folder. Adrian looked up from his desk. His breath caught in his throat. It was Grace. She looked different. Her hair was shorter. Her eyes were confident. But it was her. She froze when she saw him. Adrian, she whispered. He stood slowly, unable to speak. She smiled, a little sad, a little nervous. I didn't know this was your studio. Neither of them moved. The air between them was thick with everything unsaid. They stood there, just staring. Finally, Adrian spoke. You look happy. Grace nodded slowly. I finally learned to be. She explained that she had started her own business. A small company helping women escape dangerous situations. It was her way of turning pain into purpose. Adrian smiled. That's amazing, Grace. She looked around the studio. Your work is beautiful. You always had talent. There was a long silence. Then Grace asked softly, do you still sketch? Adrian walked to his desk and picked up her old notebook. He handed it to her. Grace opened it carefully. Her eyes widened. Inside were new drawings. Drawings she had added. I came back a year ago, she admitted. I stood outside your studio one night. I saw you working late. I left the notebook by the door with some new pages. Adrian's heart ached. Why didn't you come in? Before she could answer, someone knocked loudly on the door. A man in a grey suit stepped inside. He held a folder stamped with a legal firm's logo. Grace Hill, he said coldly. Grace's face went pale. Yes. You've been served. He handed her the folder and left. Grace opened it with shaking hands. Adrian moved closer. What is it? Her voice cracked. It's Ethan. He's suing me. For defamation. He claims I ruined his reputation. Adrian's jaw tightened. He's in jail. How can he? His lawyers, Grace whispered. They are still working for him. Adrian gently took the papers from her hands. We'll fight this. Together. Grace looked up at him, tears in her eyes. Adrian, I can't drag you into this again. He shook his head firmly. You're not dragging me anywhere. I'm choosing to stay. That night, they sat in the studio and planned their next move. For the first time in years, Grace didn't feel alone. Weeks later, things got worse. Private photos of Grace were leaked online. Pictures from her past with Ethan, taken out of context, twisted to make her look guilty. The media swarmed her business. Reporters shouted questions. Her clients pulled back. Her reputation was being destroyed. Grace sat in Adrian's studio, head in her hands. He's winning, she whispered. Adrian knelt beside her. No. He's desperate. And desperate men make mistakes. That night, Grace couldn't sleep. She kept getting anonymous messages. You'll never escape me. I own you. This isn't over. Each one felt like a knife. But then Adrian had an idea. Tell your story, he said. Not to the media. Directly to the world. Grace looked at him, confused. Go live online, Adrian continued. Tell them everything. The truth. Your way. Grace hesitated. But deep down, she knew he was right. It was time to stop hiding. The next evening, Grace sat in front of a camera in Adrian's studio. Her hands shook as she pressed the Go Live button. Thousands of people joined within minutes. She took a deep breath and began. My name is Grace Hill. And I want to tell you the truth. For 20 minutes, she spoke. About Ethan's control. The fear. The manipulation. The bruises no one saw. The escape. The constant threats. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. Adrian stood behind the camera, nodding gently, giving her strength. By the time she finished, over 100,000 people were watching. Comments flooded in. "We believe you. You're so brave. Thank you for speaking up." The video went viral overnight. News outlets picked it up. Ethan's lawyers tried to take it down, but it was too late. The truth was out. 2 days later, Ethan was arrested again. This time for cyberstalking, harassment, and witness intimidation. Months passed. The case was closed. Ethan was sentenced to prison. Grace's business slowly recovered. Her story inspired others to speak up. She became a voice for survivors. Adrian stayed by her side through it all. One rainy Saturday morning, Adrian asked Grace to meet him at the cafe where they first reconnected. She smiled when she arrived. It looked exactly the same. Soft music played. The smell of vanilla filled the air. Adrian sat by the window, 2 cups of coffee waiting. Grace sat across from him, laughing softly. "Why here?" He stood up slowly and held out his hand. She took it, confused. Then he led her outside. Rain was falling gently. He knelt down on one knee, right there on the sidewalk. Grace gasped. Adrian pulled out a simple silver ring. "No more running," he said. "Let's start our forever right here." Grace's eyes filled with tears. She hesitated, her hand covering her mouth. Grace looked down at Adrian, rain soaking through her hair. Tears mixed with raindrops on her cheeks. She nodded slowly, then faster. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Adrian stood and slipped the ring onto her finger. They held each other tightly, right there in the rain, just like the night they first met. Grace pulled back slightly and looked into his eyes. "You were never the man I fell for in the rain," she said softly. "You're the man who stayed through the storm." Adrian smiled. "And I'll stay through every storm after this one." They kissed as the rain poured harder. People walking by smiled and clapped. The cafe owner watched from the window, tears in her eyes. Grace and Adrian stood there, holding each other, finally free. Finally together. And sometimes, love at first sight is just the first chapter. Not the whole story. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.